Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Coach Cara's podcast, Itchy, Bitchy and Guests. How are we? I am going to speak about one of my favourite subjects today. Favourite subjects ever. Food. And actually the 80-20 rule. And how the 80-20 rule, when applied to diet, nutrition, life in general, can actually be a game changer and life changing. Do you know? And I think, see, when I say game changer and life changing always sounds a bit dramatic, right? But I'm totally not being dramatic here. But there are so many things when I started studying nutrition. There are so many things that were actually life changing. Like, actually life changing. When I look back as to the state that I was in just when I signed up to my nutrition course, I was not in a good place. Absolutely not. There was definitely some mental health shit going on. There was absolutely some imposter syndrome going on. I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I seen in the mirror. I was fat. Do you know, and see, before anybody pulls me up for that, right? People are like, you can't use the word fat. And I'm like, I fucking can. I'm speaking to myself, right? I'm not being judgy. It doesn't mean that I'm like a nasty person. I was just fat. I was carrying extra body fat. All right, anyway, game changing, life changing, right? So, one of my favourite topics, specifically to do with fat loss, but also to do with your health and mindset as well. And it's like a little permission slip to let go of perfection, because let's face it, right? Most of us women, we want to be perfect, and we get very stuck into the thing of, well, if I'm not perfect, why do it at all? And that is literally why most people don't hit their goals, whatever their goal is, because they can't be perfect. Whereas in fact, we're not actually looking for perfect. So the 80-20 rule, it's like that magic little ratio, right? That just, it gives you permission to live a healthy life, right? To have fun, to get some balance, right? And to be healthy most of the time, right? But without turning yourself into like a constantly miserable, lettuce chomping monk, pretty much is what we're going for here, all right? So we're going for balance. We're absolutely going for balance, all right? So just going to shift again. I've got my iPad, right, with my notes on it. I've got my phone. This is like, see, for young ones, right, this would be no bother. This would be quite the norm, right? But I feel at 51 years old that I'm actually smashing life, because I've got my notes on my iPad, right, as opposed to a notebook when I'd been flicking paper. I'm doing a Facebook Live. I'm just checking I've hit the button, but I have. I'm doing a Facebook Live for my 7 days of free coaching mini midlife reset that I'm giving away. All the ladies are smashing it, by the way. I'm going to share it later on some of my Insta stories and stuff. Share how they're getting on, what their concerns are, how they're feeling already after 2 days in. All right, and I've got my MacBook, and I'm recording a podcast at the same time. Honestly, and it's my day off. Fucking winning at life, my lovelies. Right, so if you've ever felt stuck between all in or what's the point, right, this episode is for you, because I'm going to let you into a massive secret. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody is looking for perfection. I am certainly not looking for perfection with my clients. I'm not looking for me to be perfect. I'm asking my clients to try. And if it's not working for them, I'm asking them to try something different. That is literally what we're trying to do here, all right? It works, you know, right? You don't need to be perfect, you just need a plan. You need a plan that fits in with real life. So what we do quite often is we think that we'll just change everything all at once, right? So, and again, this is why we fail. So we think that because we don't train at the moment and we don't exercise, we're totally going to manage to smash it out in the gym seven days a week, right? No, you're not. You're absolutely going to fail if you do that, right? Because you think that that's been perfect when it's not. It's actually just about finding a plan and fitting that plan in around your life. Yes, there will be changes that you need to make, but you don't need to overhaul your entire life. Like, you don't need to start shopping in a different supermarket, eating different food, and going to the gym 7 days a week to smash your goals. You absolutely do not. You just need a bit of a plan that fits in with what you currently do. I kid you not, honestly. right? Anyway, get a cuppa or pop me in your ear things, right? When you're out for a walk, that would be quite nice. Take me with you, all right? But we're going to speak about the 80-20 rule and why it might actually just be that little bit of fresh air that you actually need, that you didn't know that you needed, all right? Yeah, so 80-20 rule, the basics, right? 80% of the time, I'm just picking tree out my hair. I've been out with Jasper this morning. I've been up the canal. We've done 3 miles. Anyway, I'm just picking bits of twig out my hair. Right, 80-20 rule. The basic rule, right? 80% of the time, you're going to focus on awesome nutrition, smashing your macros, etc., smashing your calorie goal, and your habits, your good habits, so your healthy habits, your nourishing habits, 80% of the time. 20% of the time, the other 20% of the time, you're going to enjoy life guilt-free. Right, that's it. That's me giving you my perspective. All right, 80% do your shit that you know you should be doing. 20% of the time, just say a wee bit fuck it and live life. Right, that's it. Ta-ta, end the podcast. No, I'm only kidding. Obviously, I'm going to elaborate a wee bit more. All right. So the 80-20 rule, right? It's not a cheat code, right? I'm not giving you a free pass to be like 80% perfect or 100% perfect 80% of the time, and to literally say fuck it and go and bury yourself in takeaway pizzas and alcohol and crisps and sweeties the other 20% of the time, right? It's not about that. It's not about over restricting 80% of the time and kicking the arse out at 20% of the time. It's about trying to find a balance that works for you. So we want to think about, if we're thinking about food, for example, how does the 80-20 rule apply to food? All right, so 80% of the time, hit your macros, all right? So focus on your protein, get your carbs, get your fat. Your carbs are for energy, your fat's for tastiness, your protein's to retain muscle and keep you fuller for longer, all right? So eat food that supports those 3 goals, all right? So protein, carbs and fat, 80% of the time. 20% of the time, this is the stuff for your treats. So this is like your crisps and your Freddos or your chocolate and your cakes and your ice cream, all right? So 20%. Also, you can incorporate that into your calorie goal, all right? So eat at a healthy calorie goal. 80% of those calories spend on the macro hitting goals, all right? Like your protein, your carbs, and your fat, all right? 20% of those calories, so for example, just say you were on 2,000 calories a day, 20% of those calories, 400 calories a day, right? That means you can spend 400 calories per day eating the stuff that you really, really like, the tasty stuff, all right? So 400 calories is actually quite a lot. For a start, in Freddo currency, that's 4 Freddos, and you would still have 20 calories left over, right? So if you want to eat 4 Freddos a day, and spend your 400 calories on 4 Freddos a day, banging. Absolutely knock yourself out, all right? The condition is that the other 1,600 calories you spend on the macro hitting calories. So you spend it on the lean protein, all right? You spend it on the unprocessed carbs, like not the highly processed stuff. So you spend it on your fruit and your veg and your brown pasta and your brown rice and your seeded bread, etc., etc., all right? And you spend it on the dietary fat yogurts, things like whatever that is, like your butter, your oil, whatever you use for cooking and stuff, all right? So that's the dealio. So that's the 80-20 rule as far as nutrition's concerned, right? Fucking banging. This is why when you give, like when you have a calorie goal and then you just try and cut out everything, spoke about it yesterday actually, you just try and cut out everything that you enjoy. Right, so not only are you on a diet, you're an absolute miserable cow and all because you've cut everything out. It's not about that, right? The answer to eating all the chocolate is not to cut the chocolate out. The answer to eating all the chocolate is to learn portion control. 20% of your calories on the tasty stuff is a banging way to do portion control, by the way. It's banging. Absolutely banging. So, right, so that's that. Right, movement wise as well, 80% and 20%, right? Do something, find something that you love first of all, as far as movement's concerned, right? I CrossFit, I love CrossFit, I'm absolutely biased towards CrossFit, I think that everybody should do CrossFit, all right? But it's not for everybody. Find what works for you. If it's running, go for a run. If it's cycling, if it's Zumba, if it's body pump, if it's spin, If it's just going to the gym on your own and lifting weights, that's amazing. Just find what works for you, all right? And do that 80% of the time. Like 80% of the week, do that. I don't even know what that is in days. I can't even figure that out. Right, but you don't need to go to the gym 7 days a week. You need rest days, right? Muscles are built. Muscles are built and repaired, but muscle is built on your rest days. Right, you need to give your body a chance to recover. You need some time off for the gym, right? So if you're going to do it, but don't go all in 7 days a week. You'll just get scunnered. All right. Why it works, right? So specifically in midlife, all right, things become a lot harder because of all the shit that's going on in our body, right? It's a wee bit different, I think, as well, right? See, in puberty, like, everybody knew that puberty was coming, right? You learn about it at school, etc., right? Your parents all knew that puberty was coming, right? When you turned into an actual raving lunatic, all right, it was always your hormones. And everybody knew that that was happening round about the time of whenever, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whenever your puberty was, right? Everybody knew. But for some reason, this menopausal malarkey, all right, nobody really, I was going to say nobody really knows about it. More people know about it than we probably think, but nobody really speaks about it. And there's a lot of people that it's not understanding, right? So, like, from a woman's point of view, right, from my point of view, if somebody turns around and says to me, do you know, like, you're being an absolute C word, right? And they don't understand why you're being a C word. Think about where we are, right? You maybe didn't understand what's happened to us, right? But we fucking sure as hell don't understand what's happened to us neither. We've got all these lack of hormones flying through our body. So, do you know, you're trying to deal with all of that and you're maybe not feeling good about yourself because you know that you've been a bit shit to people, right? I have done that in the past, by the way. You don't really like what you see in the mirror. You've got this, like, miracle fat gain that's came for fucking nowhere, right? And then you're still trying to actually function. You're still trying to run a house. You're still trying to do your job. You're still trying to look after your kids. You're still trying to look after your elderly parents, right? And on top of all of that, you really want to make some changes, right? So everything is a bit more difficult. It's not impossible, right? I am absolutely not giving you a free pass. I'm not making excuses for you. It's not impossible, right? I want you to remember that any midlife weight gain can be reversed 100% reversed, all right? And I also want you to remember that this time in your life is the actual beginning. This is a chance to rewrite and do whatever you want in the future, all right? But you need to believe that you can do that. So everything is a bit harder, all right? So sticking to the 80-20 rule, right? It actually gives you the option, if you heard of decision fatigue and decision paralysis, all right? It's when we're like, decision fatigue, so you've just got so many decisions to make that it's just too difficult, so you don't make any, right? And decision paralysis is, do you know, it's the same. You actually don't know what to do. You can't make a decision, so you just do nothing. Whereas in fact, do nothing is still a choice, right? You're still choosing to do nothing. So the 80-20 rule takes the pressure out of that, right? So pick the habit that you're going to work on, do it 80% of the time, don't do it the other 20% of the time. That's literally it. That's all you need to do. All right, that's a wee bit easier than trying to decide how often, when, etc. All right, just 80% of the time. Divide your week into 80% and 20%. Yeah. Right, cool. It also creates a bit of a flexible structure, so it gives you a bit of flexibility, right? We don't need to be perfect on day one because we can just try our hardest on 80% of the time of day one. Yeah. Smash your diet 80% of the time. Smash your nutrition 80% of the time, knowing that you've got the 400 calories that I was speaking about earlier to spend on the nice things, all right? If that's a slice of white bread and butter with your dinner, that's amazing. If that's a packet of crisps, a Freddo, some fruit and yoghurt with some chocolate chips or whatever sprinkled on for your supper, and you want to eat all of that after your dinner, and that's your 400 calories, that's totally cool. All right, so 80-20, it gives you a bit of flexibility and it just lets you, sorry, I've got really itchy eyes, I think I've got hay fever. It just gives you, it cuts you some slack, all right? Absolutely. Right, so 80-20, back to nutrition. It gives you room for the chocolate, right? The biggest reason why we fail diets and why we start again every Monday is because we're too strict, all right? We do the over-restriction Monday to Friday, kick the arse out at the weekend, which is effectively over-restrict binge, right? And then we try again Whereas in fact, if you just took all those things that you eat at the weekend, like the cake or the ice cream or the chocolate, and had a wee bit of them every day, Monday to Friday, you wouldn't kick the arse out of it at the weekend because you wouldn't binge because you've had it every day. It's 80-20 rule. Honestly, kid you not. Kid you not. Yeah. So this helps with emotional eating and the I've blown it mindset. The I've blown it mindset is the all in or all out, right? And by the way, if you're ever saying to yourself, I absolutely used to say this about me all the time, about my personality, I'm an all in kind of gal, I'm either all in or I'm all out. What you're actually doing by saying that is you're giving yourself permission to not try. Because if you can't do it perfectly, i.e. you're not all in, you're just not going to bother. That's you giving yourself permission. You're giving yourself an excuse to no bother your fucking arse. True story. That was just a by the by there. Alright. So, 80-20, right? It's a lifestyle. It's not a quick fix. Absolutely. I speak about diet all the time, right? In the context of the food that you eat, but I also speak about diet as in dieting, alright? Now, when my clients come and work with me, I don't necessarily want them to be the skinniest version of themselves, alright? If you only want to lose 3 kilos, right, you still need to go on a diet. There's a lot of shit out there about don't use the word diet, learn to love who you are, be happy at who you are. That's absolutely true, 100%, right? And when my clients do start with me, I do work on them, especially for the first 4 weeks, on their self-love and their self-confidence and their self-belief, because you actually have to live your life now, regardless of what scale weight you are, regardless of whether you're happy or not, all right? Life is now. You can't start your life when you get to your goal weight or your target weight, all right? But if you want to lose fat, you need to go on a diet. End of. Absolute end of, right? And you can call that diet whatever you want. You can call it the 80-20 rule, you can call it, I can't think of the word. Oh, fuck. This is what happens when I have a day off. My brain goes into absolute shutdown. Anyway, right, you can call it whatever you like. You can call it intermittent fasting. You can call it, oh my God, why can't I think of that word? Oh, I can't remember. It doesn't matter, right? But if you want to lose fat, bottom line is you need to go on a diet, all right? So don't get hung up on the word diet, all right? Just don't. It's like people that get hung up on the word fat. You can't call me fat. I'm offended, right? Fuck off, right? I was fat. It's dead simple. I'm not being derogatory, all right? I'm not classing that word. I'm not linking your personality to that word. You know, I'm not saying that you're Mrs. McCunty just because you're carrying a bit of excess body fat, all right? I'm just using the word fat. Anyway, right. Whew, well, very exciting. 80-20, all right? It is a lifestyle. It's not a quick fix, right? It's about stacking your habits. It's about picking one habit and nailing that before you add another one on, all right? And then you've got 2 habits. Then before you know it, you've got 3 habits. Before you know it, you're absolutely smashing fucking life, all right? It's about planning. You cannot wing fat loss. The first thing I say to all my clients, right? You cannot wing fat loss. If you're going to come and work with me and you think that you're just going to wing it and put no plan into it, no food shopping, no food plan for the week, no exercise plan, then it's not going to work and we're not going to be working together for very long. So you need to sort that, all right? But 80-20 is also about giving yourself some grace. It's about understanding that you do not need to be perfect, ever. Never, ever, ever do you need to be perfect. Never, ever, ever will I ask you to be perfect. Never, ever, ever do I expect you to be perfect. I don't expect myself to be perfect, all right? You just need to be consistent 80% of the time, yeah? Yeah. And if there's things like, right, so when you go on holiday, for example, right, I'll just give you an example. We'll just use holidays, right? That 20% is probably going to become 50%, right? Because if you're going to go on holiday and stick rigidly to the 80-20 rule, I'm actually going to be quite concerned for your mental health, all right? Because part of the joy of dieting and fat loss is that you need to have some time off and you need to practice making healthy choices when you can without MyFitnessPal, without me going blah, 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 and sitting on your shoulder, all right? And that is half the fun. So practice. If you go on holiday, all right, it's okay. Whatever happens on holiday, you can sort it out when you come home because you just go straight back to the 80-20 rule. Honestly, it's fucking life-changing. I kid you not, right? And progress. Finally, again, progress and perfection, all right? Progress, no matter how small, right, is amazing. Some of my clients in the Mini Midlife Reset, my free coaching group, all right, yesterday, Tuesday, so they uploaded their habit tracker for Monday, and then they've uploaded their habit tracker this morning for Tuesday, and the difference in them is amazing. Like, they've maybe done an extra 1,000 steps, they've maybe added in one extra habit, they've maybe tried something new, like putting their phone away an hour before they go to bed, they've maybe went from 4 portions of fruit and veg to 5 portions of fruit and veg, right? That's progress. No matter how small it is, that's progress. It's brilliant. Honestly, I love it. All right, so if you are a midlife woman on a mission, I want you to think about freeing yourself up from the chains of perfection. All right, the 80-20 rule, it's your permission slip. I will write you a slip if you want. I will excuse you from being perfect, right? To ditch perfection and live with purpose, to nourish your body and your own inner joy. Remember, I want you sleeping out your bed in the morning, wondering what the fuck you can get up to the day because it's so fucking exciting. How many laughs you're going to have, how many people you're going to speak to, knowing full well that you have made a choice to look after yourself. All right, this is where the joy comes from. Stop chasing unrealistic standards. Stop setting yourself up for a fall by kidding on that you need to be perfect. And then when you decide that you're an all-in or all-out kind of gal, kicking the arse out of it and then just bringing the guilt in with that. It's shit. Actually shit, all right? This is a way of life, an absolute way of life. Right, it's not about getting it right all the time, it's about getting it right enough of the time that your habits start to work for you, not against you. We want your habits, I want your habits, and your healthy eating, and your mindful eating, and your nutrition, and your exercise, and your life to fit in with who you are. I don't want you to change. Yeah? Right, last final plug. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Share it with another midlife lady that might actually be saying to you right at this moment in time, oh, I'm an all-in or all-out kind of gal. All right, let them know that this, what I'm talking about today, is normal. All right, you want to make an 80-20 lifestyle your normal. Yeah? Banging. If you want to know anything about my coaching, as always, you can get me on the socials. I'm under Coach Caris. You can follow me on my YouTube channel. Guess what? It's called Coach Caris. And you can hear me on my podcast, Coach Caris. Itchy, bitchy, and guest. There's a theme there, eh? Until next time, my lovelies, you do not need to be perfect. You just need a better plan. Bye-bye.